The Monday, November 18th, 2013 meeting of the Issaquah City Council is called to order at 7 p.m. and the council and I invite those who are present to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, if you wish. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item this evening is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on matters that are of importance to them. And those matters may be things that are on the council agenda this evening, or they may be other items, whatever a person wants to talk about and is concerned about or interested in. There are some guidelines for participating in this public commentary period, which is called audience comments. And the guidelines are that when you are recognized, we ask that you use the lectern over here in council chambers and the microphone so that you may be seen and heard by people who are in council chambers this evening and by people who are watching the council meeting on Channel 21, our government access channel. We further ask that you state your name, your address, and your relationship to the city. For instance, if you want to say that you are a resident, a property owner, a business owner, a person who is concerned about some particular thing, that would be the time to do so. We further ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes or fewer, and the comments are timed. And if you have written comments, please submit them for the city clerk so that we may have them and be better able to address your concerns. This is an opportunity for public participation. It isn't a dialogue, however, and there have been occasional questions from people who said they observed that the council did not debate them or comment back on things, but that's not what this is. Now, those are for audience comments, general comments, and for items that are not the subject of public hearings. This evening there are two topics that are the subject of public hearings. Those will happen a little bit later during the council meeting. And those are Agenda Bill 6708, a major amendment to the Issaquah Highlands two-party development agreement and new development agreement for Highlands blocks 29 through 42. There will be a public hearing, and then after that the council may approve resolutions. The other item that is the topic of a public hearing this evening is Agenda Bill 6702, and that is the proposed 2014 budget. And there will be a public hearing and then a consideration of an ordinance under regular business. So there are those items. And at this point, I will ask if anyone is here and has signed up to speak during audience comments.
There are no names on the sign-up sheet.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak during audience comments who has not had an opportunity to sign up? Anyone who wishes to speak during audience comments? Third call, is there anyone who wishes to speak during audience comments? Seeing and hearing no one who wishes to speak during audience comments are closed. And next we will move on to council committee reports and regional reports. And we will start with Councilmember Faulkner.
Thank you. The Council Infrastructure Committee meeting is going to be tomorrow at 5:30 in the Pickering Room at City Hall Northwest. On the agenda is Agenda Bill 6734, King County Metro Service Reductions, Agenda Bill 6562, the Water System Plan Update, a Bike Pedestrian Plan Update, Agenda Bill 6742, Community Fiber Network Franchise, Agenda Bill 6743, Acceptance of King Conservation District Grant for Lower Lewis Creek Restoration, Agenda Bill 6745, Acceptance of Department of Ecology Stormwater Grant for Parks Maintenance Facilities. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you. Land and Shore met on November 12th, and we had a couple of items on our agenda. One was a Swedish development agreement, which is on the agenda tonight. And the second one, for discussion purposes only, we had a brief discussion about the Central Issaquah plan and specifically what the procedural options would be for revising that plan, specifically with regard to requiring mixed use. And that process would be through a code amendment. Again, it was just a discussion in light of a concern that I brought up about the fact that the plan doesn't require mixed use currently. Again, there was no action or no further request to staff. We just talked about it. The next Land and Shore Committee meeting is December 10th, 5 p.m. here in council chambers, and on the agenda is the DSD fees, which was the subject of our work session last week. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Martz?
No report.
Councilmember Scheer?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to members of the viewing public. The Eastside Transportation Partnership met on November 8th. We had a number of updates and a very full agenda. One was an update from King County Road Services Division regarding snow removal, which, like many things in the county, has been impacted by budget constraints. We also had an update from the I-405 Executive Advisory Group. But the most significant highlight, if you will, or perhaps low light of the meeting was the King County Metro Service Reduction proposal that Councilmember Faulkner alluded to that we're going to be discussing at tomorrow night's Infrastructure Committee meeting. Kevin Desmond, who's the General Manager of Metro, and Victor Obeso, who's Metro's Service Development Manager, gave the ETP a presentation about the routes on the east side that would be affected. They talked about the west side and the south end as well, but it's pretty drastic. And if you want more information on this and you can't come to the committee meeting, you can also take a look at metro.kingcounty.gov. And on the left-hand side, there's a little icon that says Metro Funding Gap equals bus cuts. And if you go on there, there's a number of tabs that tell you where all the proposed changes are, how they determined those proposed changes, a number of frequently asked questions, etc. And you can look at different parts of the county. Unless the legislature takes action in this special session, it's very likely that there will be a phased reduction of Metro bus service throughout the county, not just on the east side, not just in Issaquah, but throughout all of King County. And that's not going to be immediate, it's not going to be overnight, it's not going to be all at once, but there will be changes and it will be a significant reduction in the Metro fleet due to funding constraints. So it's a big issue. I would encourage you as members of the public to continue looking into that if you're interested and you take transit or have family or friends who take transit. It's a pretty significant issue that's going on right now with the fiscal gap. And that concludes my committee report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Barber?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Services and Safety's next meeting is on December 5th, Thursday at 5 p.m. the Eagle Room. There is no agenda set at this moment, so please just stay tuned to the city's website.
Councilmember Winterstein?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Eastside Human Services Forum is sponsoring a workshop for small business owners in the area. It's regarding the Affordable Care Act. It's an information system for small businesses. It's a free event for small business owners who employ less than 50 people. Learn about the Small Business Health Care Tax Credit, the Small Business Health Option Program, and more. There is registration required. You can go to the Eastside Human Services Forum website at eastsideforum, all one word, eastsideforum.org. And yes, and it's up on their website. Again, it's a free event. There has clearly, as we've heard at the forum, there's a lot of learning still to do, especially for small business owners, on the effect of the Affordable Care Act. And I think that this program will really have some value for all of those who would be affected by that. And then another matter regarding the Eastside Human Services Forum is our annual meeting is coming up on Thursday, December 5th, just before my Services and Safety meeting. And that'll be held at the North Bellevue Community Center in Bellevue. And it's going to be about recent efforts regarding actually comprehensive plans. The agenda is going to focus on the development of cities' comprehensive plans and the human services element, which has really never got a regional discussion before. And I'm going to go back to my other item. I'm not sure that I mentioned that the location of the Affordable Care Act information session for small businesses will be Monday, November 25th from 7:30 to 9 a.m. in Redmond City Hall. Again, Monday, November 25th, 7:30 to 9 a.m. at Redmond City Hall. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next council work session is scheduled for December the 9th at 6 o'clock here in council chambers, and the agenda has not been set. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Under the mayor's report, there will be an executive session, this meeting held this evening for the purpose of potential litigation, and that is per RCW 42.30.110, bracketed 1, bracketed lowercase I. This item is expected to take approximately 20 minutes, and action is not anticipated. Today, I proclaim that the Bush family tulip poplar at 22060 Southeast 60th Street, near the North Fork of Issaquah Creek, the saucer magnolia at 185 2nd Avenue Southeast, and the grand fir at 320 Southeast Andrews Street to be heritage trees in the city of Issaquah. I urge all citizens to enjoy and protect our heritage trees and to appreciate the value that these and other trees give our community. These are trees that are unusually old, unusually large, or both typically, and they're ones that have been in this city for a very long time. Next item, as temperatures turn colder and the holiday season approaches, the Kiwanis Club of Issaquah is spearheading its annual coat and shoe drive on behalf of the Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank, and that is to benefit families in our community. You can donate new and gently used coats and shoes at locations throughout Issaquah, including the lobby at City Hall, across the street. Collection boxes will be in place until the end of this month, November 30th. Another item, please be aware that next week on Thursday, November 28th and Friday, November 29th, city offices will be closed in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. And now a special item. Thank you, Joe, for serving this year and filling the vacancy of Mark Mullet's term. On behalf of the people of Issaquah, I have for you a certificate of appreciation in recognition of and gratitude for your generous gifts of time and dedication to public service. And I want you to know you truly make Issaquah a special place where people care. So please come forward. Thank you. Now I'll ask the council if the accounts, payables and payroll have been reviewed.
They have.
All right. And then I will ask the council's pleasure on the consent calendar. Councilmember Butler.
I would move approval of the consent calendar as submitted.
Second.
Okay, moved by Butler, seconded by Winterstein. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The next item then to come before the council is a continuation of a public hearing. This is on Agenda Bill 6708. That is a major amendment to Issaquah Highlands two-party development agreement and new development agreement for Highlands blocks 29 through 42. It appears we have a staff presentation.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, Keith Niven, Economic Development Director. So this is a continuation of the public hearing that was started on the 21st of October. At that time, we had no public comment, but this is a continuation nonetheless. So the Swedish Development Agreement is really dealing with about 28 acres. It's the existing hospital site. Let's see if I can find my mouse. There it is. It's existing hospital site and the parking that's already constructed to the west of the hospital, and then an additional 10 acres of land located immediately north of the existing hospital. The development agreement, process-wise, there's a couple pieces. One, the property is currently under the regulations of the Issaquah Highlands Development Agreement, and what we're doing is we're actually taking it out of the Issaquah Highlands Development Agreement and putting a new development agreement on over the top of it. The Urban Village Development Commission has been reviewing this, and they recommended approval on 11/6/2013. So the highlights are it's a 20-year agreement, covers 28 acres. In total, there's 1,077,000 square feet of commercial entitlement. It's all existing Issaquah Highlands entitlements, so there's no new development here. Swedish has made a commitment to support transit. There is a commitment for some type of community space to be included in the property, and they made a commitment for sustainability with their new development, similar to how they did their hospital. So that's it in a nutshell. Are there any questions before we continue the public hearing portion? Now I'll step aside.
All right. I'll go through the procedure for participating in the public hearing. It is very much akin to the one that was previously given for audience comments. The guidelines are that when you are recognized, you are asked to please use the lectern and the microphone to be seen and heard in council chambers and on television. We ask that you state your name, your address, and if you wish to emphasize a relationship to the city, resident, property owner, business owner, and so on, you may do so at that time. Again, we ask that comments be limited to 5 minutes or fewer. They will be timed. And if you have written comments, please submit them for the city clerk. And with that, I will open the public hearing at 7:17 p.m. And I will ask if anyone has signed up to speak. All right. Give an opportunity for people to speak even if they have not signed up during the public hearing. So second call, is there anyone present who wishes to speak during the public hearing on this topic? Third call, anyone who wishes to speak on this particular topic that is the subject of a public hearing this evening? Hearing and seeing no one who has applied to speak, the public hearing is closed at 7:18 p.m. And now, this topic has been the subject of review by the Urban Village Development Commission, and it has been reviewed by the City Council's Land and Shore Committee. Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you. I would move to approve resolution number 8th major modification to the Issaquah Highlands two-party development agreement to remove the Swedish property from the Issaquah Highlands, and approve resolution number
2013-17
to approve the development agreement for Issaquah Highlands blocks 29 through 42, also known as the Swedish property, incorporating the recommended final edits from the Urban Village Development Commission attached as Exhibit D to this agenda bill.
All right, that puts the topic in front of the council for discussion.
Second.
There was a second. There was a second. So moved by Goodman and seconded by Winterstein. Always trying to get things done expeditiously. All right, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you. So, as you mentioned, Land and Shore has been reviewing this for several months, and I'm really pleased to bring this forward today. First of all, Swedish Hospital has just been a great addition to our community. It's a great addition to Issaquah Highlands. It's a great facility. I frequent it. It's just a frequent it as in, I'm not at the hospital every day to being worked on, but I go in a lot and frequent the stores and have been in there a lot. It's just a great facility, and so it was exciting to hear that Swedish wanted to expand, and I think it's even more exciting to hear that there is demand for that expansion. We did look at it for several months. There was very little public comment. Certainly there wasn't anything negative that I can recall of any significance whatsoever. I'm just very pleased to support it, and pleased we're here tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Martz, followed by Councilmember Butler.
I guess I'd just like to echo that the process whereby we reviewed this potential agreement was very coherent, and issues that came up that people had questions about, both city staff and Swedish were very responsive to and got answers back to us in a timely fashion. You know, I had questions about underground tanks because we have others in the Highlands, and I got great answers, and I'm very confident that any potential safety issues were addressed, so I'll be supporting this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am also delighted to support this. I recall when it first came before the Land and Shore Committee and we discussed the timeline. I had some concerns and reservations that we could accomplish it as quickly as we did. It speaks very highly of our staff, the applicant, and those who were involved in the process. I take a certain amount of pride pointing out that we now have a hospital in Issaquah that has an outstanding reputation and is doing a fantastic job. That's truly a very important resource for our community and for this part of King County.
Thank you. Councilmember Scher.
Thank you. I'd also echo the comments I've heard. I think Swedish is the type of facility that we really want in our community and that we've welcomed into the community. And when we look at businesses and facilities here in Issaquah and the types of those businesses and facilities that we want to see more of, not necessarily competing, but just providing good services for our community, Swedish has been a great partner to work with. And the absence of any public comment, I think, speaks volumes to the fact that this is a solid and sound development agreement amendment to pursue. I would encourage continuing to look at traffic issues. I know that when you turn on to Discovery and you make the left onto 8th to get over to the hospital, it can sometimes be a little bit tricky. You've got cars that might be oncoming when you're making that left, and there's on-street parking issues along 8th. And I know these things are usually panned out in simulations and so forth, but we don't live in a virtual world, and so actual traffic patterns are something I think we need to monitor as this development continues to increase, because it will bring more cars and more pedestrians into that particular area. And so while it's all been covered by the existing allotments and so forth, the traffic patterns are something that I think we should keep an eye on. I was pleased to see, at least if I understood this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't appear that any political signs are allowed in any of the right-of-way, which is something I've talked about, a personal concern. And, I think that's really one of the last things you want to see when you're driving in for a checkup or an emergency is, a bunch of signs along the corridor there on 8th or on Discovery. So unless I misunderstood that.
Apparently I was channeling you on that, Councilman Scher. So, I don't know, we were sweeping through and I was taking stuff out of existing city code, and I I kind of took the political signs all out, and then everybody was like, "What? You can't take that out." So I put it back in. So it is consistent with the rest of the city code, and you know, I like I said, I think I was channeling some thoughts you might have had about that, but they are allowed in the right of way as they would be in other parts of the city.
Now, see, I brought that up because in looking at the UVDC recommendations, it appeared to me that there was a difference there, or maybe they were ratifying your re-inclusion of that, but that's why I thought I was understanding it to be that those were out, as was what I thought originally to be the intent. It says keep political signs, but I didn't know if that meant keep signs in or keep taking them out.
It means to put it back in.
Put it back
so
in.
they were stripped out, and that was to put them back in.
I guess then I'll say I found that unfortunate.
Sorry about that.
So I guess you'll know who to vote for on your way in for a procedure. But in all seriousness, I think this is a very good agreement between the city and Swedish, and I look forward to seeing the future growth come about in that neighborhood. Thanks.
Other comments or questions from members of the council? Any other comments or questions? Is the council ready then to act on the motion to approve resolution number 2013-16, the major modification to the Issaquah Highlands two-party development agreement as just described, and to approve resolution number 2013-17 to approve the development agreement for the Issaquah Highlands blocks 29 through 42? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passed unanimously. The next item to come before the council this evening as a topic of a public hearing is Agenda Bill 6702. And this is the proposed budget that was presented to the City Council in October, and then it has had substantial review and work. But this is the budget presentation itself, which is the topic of the public hearing.
Good evening. I'm Diane Marcotte, your Finance Director. So presenting for tonight, we have a required public hearing under state law for the proposed 2014 budget. Leading up to this meeting tonight, there has been an extensive amount of information shared both with the council as well as it's been available to the community on the various questions and comments that the council has had over a series of 4 workshops. The proposed budget was made available to the public at the beginning of October as required by state law, and all of the detail, the entire document it has been on our website. So for tonight, there has been a series of council adjustments that I believe the council president Butler will be reading into the record. So I will not go through that detail, but present an overall summary and review of the proposed budget. So what the budget does is the 2014 budget is a balanced budget that continues our commitment to the quality of living to the citizens of the city of Issaquah through the preservation and enhancement of the community's unique human and natural resources. This goes very much in alignment with our whole emphasis on sustainability. And so moving on, what it also does is it provides a balanced budget without cuts to departments in the level of service that is provided to the community. There was some proposed reductions that the council in their deliberations brought forward, but in all, it did not change the overall level of service and our commitment to the community. The budget includes a proposal for a 1% property tax increase. It's been many years since we have included this in our budget and is forward for the council's consideration. And then overall, it maintains our cash reserves at near current levels and continues to meet our recently adopted financial policies and budget policies.
It continues to invest in our capital improvements and our transportation, as well as utility infrastructure, facilities, parks, and technology. So we continue to make significant investments overall in various aspects of the city's operation. And then it continues to give the staff the tools to do their job. One of the things that we have been doing over the last year is we've been working on programs called a high performance organization and a new program that's called, while it's been around, it's new to the city, called Lean. And Lean is really much about continuous improvements and working with our departments to find ways to find efficiencies and to provide better services to the community. It also respects the values citizens place on our overall services that we provide. It enhances public safety by adding a new police officer. It continues to support development activity by adding 2 construction inspectors as well as a senior planner. One of the things that the public might have some questions about was what this budget does not reflect is our recently passed Parks Bond Levy. As we work with the council in the workshops, we indicated that in 2014 we would be bringing a budget amendment forward to you for consideration that would include any of the required appropriations for 2014 related to the Parks Bond issue. We also will probably have some other amendment early in the first quarter that would be some carryover from the 2013 activity. Overall, the city of Issaquah is a large business. Our total appropriations for all funds is a little bit over $138 million. As you can see, the general fund, which is where the predominant direct services are that most public are interested in, is in the general fund at 32%. And then the next larger series of funds would be our 3 utilities, our water, our sewer, and our stormwater. So those comprise the major operations of the fund. We also have a major street improvement project called LID 25 that will be seeing a lot more activity in 2014 on. Specifically in the general fund, since it makes up such a large portion of our overall spending, you can see how our planned expenditures are for the various departments. The largest department is our police department, and as we indicated earlier, we are including an additional police officer's position. That's next followed by our Parks and Recreation department at 18%, and then followed by our fire department. So that is overall how we're planning to spend the appropriations for next year. As I indicated earlier, this does not change any of the level of services in the general fund, but continues with the service level we currently have. And then the revenue, as you can, that supports the general fund, the largest preponderance of property taxes, of overall taxes, is received in the general fund. And that's pretty, as you can see, 54% of the overall support in the general fund is in taxes. And that's broken out pretty much a third property taxes, a third sales tax, and a third what we have business and occupation taxes, as well as our utility tax. So overall, that is a summary of our planned appropriations and our spending plan for next year. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Any questions from the council at this point? Thank you. I will again go over the procedure for public hearings. We ask that you, when you're recognized, you use the lectern and the microphone, state your name, your address, and if you wish to indicate a relationship to the city, please do so at that time. We ask that you limit comments to 5 minutes or fewer, and if you have written comments, you would submit them to the city clerk. And with that, I will open the public hearing at 7:34 p.m. And I will ask if anyone has signed up to speak.
There are none.
I will ask if there is anyone present in the audience who wishes to speak about the proposed 2014 budget during this public hearing? Does anyone wish to speak? It's the second call. Is there anyone present who has not had an opportunity to sign up for the public hearing on the budget who would wish to speak at this time? Certainly, please come forward, sir.
My name's Greg Treat. I live at 23420 Southeast Black Nugget Road. I'm a resident homeowner. The only thing that I would like, if it's available, I would assume it would be available, is a copy of the presentation to the public. Is that so? Just speak with you after the meeting? Okay. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, the public hearing is closed at, it looks like it's 7:36 p.m. The public hearing is closed. And the topic is now before the council for discussion and a motion and action. Councilmember Butler.
Well, the motion would be heard under
Regular business.
Regular business.
Yes, regular business, because the public hearing was closed. Yes. Okay. Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council recently completed its deliberations on the proposed 2014 budget in a series of 4 workshops, the last of which was held on November the 7th, 2013. We reviewed the budget by reviewing each specific fund or fund categories rather than a line item review as we have done in the past. All of the work sessions were held in council chamber and were televised and also rebroadcast at a number of times following the actual workshop itself. We found the budget process resulted in a better understanding of the operations of the city, as well as increased transparency, and provided us more of an opportunity to discuss the budget in a different light. The council recognizes the administration's efforts in responsibly managing the budget during these tough economic times. Our deliberations resulted in adjustments that reflect the council's priorities and a concern that, as proposed, the 2014 general fund budget is not sustainable unless there are changes over the next few years. The council made the following changes to the mayor's proposed budget. The first was a $400,000 reduction in transfers from the LID Guarantee Fund and a $400,000 increase in revenues for fees related to site work and land use that we have been considering over the past several months. There was a $137,000 increase in revenues from sales tax that was achieved by reducing the general fund contribution to the capital fund from 25 to 23%. There were some increases. We increased the funding for the Historical Society feasibility study, and we decreased the professional services funding for the Development Services Department by $100,000. We also decreased funding for legal services by $50,000. The other major increase was a $427,025 increase in the estimated ending fund balance. The result of all of these additions and subtractions means that revenue exceeds expenditures by a modest amount without relying on ending fund balance or the LID Guarantee Fund to balance the budget itself. There were changes in the street fund. I've already mentioned the LID Guarantee Fund, and there were a number of capital improvement projects that impacted the Capital Improvement Fund. We reduced the funding for the campus feasibility study. That was a $55,000 reduction. We reduced the funding for major work at the Tibbetts Creek Manor, and we did not fund the business plan, which was originally in the proposed budget at $50,000. There were, we also decided not to fund the Public Works Operations Shop Facility in the Issaquah Highlands, which was in the budget for $160,000 because of the uncertainty around the potential of the Klahani potential annexation area, which will go to a vote of those people in the potential annexation area in February, and we felt that it didn't make sense to go forward with that possibility, that project, without knowing the results of that vote. In addition, there were a number of work items identified and a timeline, general timeline established. The first, which would occur in the first quarter of 2014, was to explore options to process, to update the city vision statement, and that process will come to the council before the end of the first quarter. Also, we ask for that an agenda bill be prepared to evaluate the financial stability and provide options for improving our financial sustainability, and we ask that that come forward in the first quarter of 2014. And then finally, we ask that the council receive a report on the operations of the Tibbetts Creek Manor sometime in the third quarter of 2014. I'd like to commend the administration and staff for their dedication throughout the budget process, their responsiveness in responding to council questions and concerns that we raised. And I would also like to thank the council for the manner in which they conducted the budget review under this new approach. I believe, from my personal standpoint, that it provided me a better understanding of the financial health and status of the various funds that make up our total budget.
Is there a motion?
I would move to adopt ordinance number.
Right. So then we are moving on to the next item under regular business, which is Agenda Bill 6701. And that is one that was reviewed by the council during the budget discussions. That has been the subject of a public hearing in November 4th. Councilmember Butler.
I would move to adopt ordinance number 2697, levying the general taxes for the city of Issaquah for the fiscal year commencing January 1, 2014, on all property, both real and personal, in said city, which is subject to taxation for the purpose of paying sufficient revenue to carry on the several departments of said city for the ensuing year as required by law.
Second.
Moved by Butler, seconded by Winterstein. And this is now in front of the council for discussion and deliberation. Councilmember Martz.
So I'm going to speak to this, but I got to talk about the budget process to speak to it. As Council President Butler alluded to, we had the budget process on camera this year, and I think that was wonderful. And I encourage anybody who's interested in our city to look at that. We have a reputation for being boring. We come up here and we tend to have very polite conversation about bills, and people sometimes say, well, surely you must disagree, and we do. It tends to happen in committee, whether that's committee of the whole or any of our other committees. And I think you'll see that on the budget. And I say all this because it is unfortunate to have to raise taxes. I think one of the first things maybe most of us learn once we become electeds, if we didn't know it already, is that taxpayers, liberal, conservative, no matter your stripe, you care about the money that we take from you for the services that we provide. And you want us to account for that money and make sure that we spend it wisely. And so it is, it is not an easy thing to raise taxes. You want to find other opportunities first. And I think if you take a look at what this budget process looked like this year, you will see that we did that. And the majority of we decided we wanted to do certain things for fiscal sustainability. We wanted to have certain funds keep at their current level, and that required both increases in revenue and increases in revenue and decreases in expenditure. And we looked hard at decreases in expenditures, and we found that. And we increased revenues primarily through fees, which make a lot more sense than taxes because they're directly it's money coming from the folks who are getting the services directly rather than being broadly applied to everyone. So I say all this because I will be supporting this bill in front of us. It's a important part of our overall sustainability. But once again, I want folks at home and anyone else who, if you ever have concerns about how your municipal government views your tax dollars, I encourage you to take a look at the process that we went through this year, and I think you'll see 7 people with the assistance of the administration being very, very cautious with your money and coming up with a budget that points towards the sustainability that I know so many people consider important. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Councilmember Scherer.
Thank you. Just briefly, on the issue of raising taxes, I guess it's good political red meat to say that you didn't do it so many years in a row, or that you've never voted to raise property taxes in your entire tenure. And I guess after tonight, I won't be able to say that anymore. But I'll take 5 out of 6 years of not having raised property taxes in this city. But I do think this year, as I've said before, it's a year-by-year, case-by-case basis that it's warranted. And if you look at the compounding effect that would occur if we continue to not do that, the city would ultimately be losing, I think it comes out, Diane, hundreds of thousands of dollars, 5 or 6 years from now. So what starts out as pennies on the dollar in year one, over a period of time, the city can really utilize that revenue stream 5 or 6 years from now for some pretty good, significant projects. And so I think this year it is warranted. I'm concerned, as I always am when there's a tax increase, that the cost of living continues to rise, that the rates and the taxes, not just from our city, but from around the entire region, just continue to go up. And every time we want to pay for something in our region, we look at taxes as a solution. And that's a dangerous thing when it comes to people's wallets and their pocketbooks, because it's really pinching those pennies out of there. And I think government as a whole, not just on a local level, but on a county or a state level, needs to take a hard look and really think about these things before they just jump to taxation as a solution. I think we've done that here. I think it's a very, very small amount, 1% on $2 and change, as Diane reminded us in a presentation, per 1,000 of assessed value that we're talking about. So, your homeowner's bill is not going to go up significantly, but, your dues may. And, someday your sales tax may, and someday property taxes from other jurisdictions may increase as well. And so all those pennies really get pinched. But I think we've done a fair assessment of it this year, and I think it's the right thing to do. And so I'm going to support the increase this year, but next year I may feel differently depending on the economic circumstances of our community. Thanks.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from the council? Other comments or questions? Is the council ready then to act upon this ordinance, ordinance 2697? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passed unanimously. And now I understand it, we go back to 6702. The budget. Councilmember Butler.
I would move to adopt ordinance number 2698, adopting the final budget of the city for the fiscal year commencing January 1, 2014.
Second.
Okay, moved by Butler and seconded by Winterstein. Discussion or questions? Councilmember Sherrill.
Thank you, Mayor. Saving my comment on the general budget for this particular motion. In years past, when we've approved the budget, I've made some comments about what I thought were the strengths and what I thought were the weaknesses. And, this year, I really can't come up with much of the latter. I think has been mentioned previously, this was a really good process. I think it was logical. I think that we did a good job of finding a sustainable way to come up with what I would call a balanced general fund for 2014. I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back too much because I know there are constituents out there who are disappointed over things that were omitted from the budget that they wanted to see, whether it's road projects or areas of concern for particular neighborhoods, whether it's particular projects or funds or city services. But as was mentioned in the presentation, this budget does not degrade the level of service that the city provides, and yet we found a way to bridge that gap, which was not an insignificant gap of about $800,000 between revenue and expenditures in the general fund, and in my opinion, doing it in a responsible way. I think having it televised was a great turn for the first time that I think we've ever done it televised. And I don't think that anyone shied away from making the same sort of comments or discussion that we would have ordinarily had, sitting up at the City Hall building. So it was a great opportunity for the public to actually see the sausage making going on live TV or on video later. So this process, I think, really worked. And I wish, frankly, that jurisdictions on a state or a federal level could be quite as in-depth and introspective about how they handle their budgets, because I really think it was a pleasure to work with all of my colleagues this year on getting this done. And I'll just say this is the first time I can remember that we've actually adopted the budget ordinance in the month of November. I went back and looked at my notes, and I think it just shows how this process really worked for us this year, that we were efficient about handling things. Again, not to say that it's perfect, not to say that folks may not be disappointed in certain aspects of it, but as a whole, as a matter of consensus, this is the document that I think provides the community with an excellent budget for 2014. And has been mentioned, there is more work yet to be done on the area of fees and other issues in the city. So I look forward to doing that over the next fiscal year. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Councilmember Butler.
I would like to thank Councilmember Winterstein for the work that he did in helping us through the process and the interactive spreadsheet that he used as we looked at potential reductions and additions, and the use of that tool to keep track of where we were as we had our discussion and deliberations. I look back also, I'd like to thank Councilmember Martz, because it was his council goal 2 years ago, I believe, that said let's televise budget deliberations. And so I thank you for that initiative on your part.
Other questions or discussion from the council? Any other questions or discussion? Is the council then ready to adopt ordinance number 2698, adopting the final budget of the city for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2014? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passed unanimously. The next item under regular business to come before the council is an Agenda Bill 6737, updated, and it has to do with a resolution regarding funding commitment to Eastside Fire and Rescue. And don't know who wishes to speak to the update. Councilmember Barber, is this something that Services and Safety has?
Well, Services and Safety, this is something that I can speak to as one of the members of the Eastside Fire and Rescue, one of the directors representing Issaquah. So
Very good, thank you.
I can speak to it. And Joe Faulkner is our other member who is serving on this committee. We have met a number of times here within our own organization of the City of Issaquah. We've reviewed this on October 21st. On the work study session, we also, on November 12th, brought it back and had a long discussion in regards to this process. There was an ad hoc committee that was formed, and they began to work through the process of working on this funding model. They worked through a lot of very different formulas and processes as to get us there. They ultimately resolved and settled on an 85-15 split. So 85% of this would be from AV, and 15% would be from calls for service. And the calls for service were further broken down into 3 for fire and 1 for EMS calls. So a very long process that had been gone through. Actually, it ended up being quite fast from some of the difficult times that we've been working through to get this process settled, to having a resolution in regards to the funding model. That did come back to the EFR board on November 14th, and it was approved unanimously by all members. And so continuing to make sure that the City of Issaquah is committed to Eastside Fire and Rescue, we're committed to making sure that the citizens of this community are cared for both from fire and emergency needs and services. So it was a welcome outcome to the ad hoc committee for the funding model to see to it that there is now this funding model in place, and it was unanimously approved by all, so I think that was very beneficial to everybody. Part of this resolution still, though, is speaking in regards to, it's item number 3. So now we're going to go back again and look at the ILA a little bit. So part of the continuing process of this, so the funding model has been accepted by all and put to bed, but now we want to go back and take a look at the ILA, which is the interlocal agreement, see if there's any needed changes in this regards. You know, it's just time. It's just time. It's been 7 years. It's a good review to go back and through and make sure that all of those are working well for all of the members of this organization, and if there's any changes that will be needed to be had in that. So that will be the next piece that they will be looking at, and I know one of the pieces we're looking at here this evening will be to look for an appointment to that particular subcommittee of Eastside Fire and Rescue, and hoping that will be coming back to Eastside Fire and Rescue fairly quickly also. So there is a move this evening, so I would like to move resolution number 2013-18 regarding the City of Issaquah's funding commitment to Eastside Fire and Rescue, and appoint, I don't think we've gotten that far yet this evening. We have? Okay. I'd like to then appoint Paul Winterstein to serve as the city's representative to Eastside Fire and Rescue Ad Hoc Committee.
Second?
Okay, moved by Barber and seconded by Faulkner.
And if there are Deputy Chief Tryon is in the audience, so if there's some further more in-depth questions, he is definitely here to answer those questions for us this evening.
Thank you. Questions or discussion amongst the council? Any additional discussion required on this topic? Councilmember Winterstein.
I'll just make a few comments. So it's been a rapid learning curve. Eastside Fire and Rescue, its history, our participation, the participation of the other 4 members, Fire Districts 10, Districts 38, City of North Bend, and the City of Sammamish. I do believe that this consortium offers a premium service at the best possible price available on the market. I know that the history has shown that it really started with Issaquah and Fire District 10 a number of years ago and has grown through the inclusion of the other districts and the other cities. To make a commitment now is really looking forward. It's a 7-year commitment, right? To renew. If we don't take any action, we're going to renew our membership in Eastside Fire and Rescue for the 7 years starting in 2015. And so it's very gratifying to know that, as a citizen, as a representative of our citizens as well, that that a system that has worked is going to remain in place. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to work with some of my new friends on EFR and some of the other members, just in the near term here, because there are opportunities for improvement. I think the discussions have been had. There's issues that have been laid on the table. And I'm glad that we've gotten to this point. I was attracted to get on the city council in the first place because this city happens to conduct its business in a very civil manner. And even throughout this sometimes very contentious issue beyond these cities' borders, that we continued to conduct our business in a very civil, very professional manner. And I'm committed, and as I'm sure the rest of my colleagues are and the members of the city here, to continue that going forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Is the council ready then to move
Madam
on?
Mayor?
Yes. Councilmember Barber. Sorry.
Thank you. I just a couple of quick comments. In the process of going through the funding model, our city administrator, Bob Harris, sat in on that particular committee, and I wanted to thank him for his time and involvement in this. And the outcome was definitely beneficial for all, and it works well for all of the members. And also a secondary thank you to Paul Winterstein for stepping forward and deciding to take on the ILA subcommittee. Hopefully it will be ad hoc. Thank you. Ad hoc committee will be as beneficial and just a thank you. I know the time frame is quick. We have the holidays coming up. It's going to be a very busy month for you. So thank you, Paul, for your time and commitment.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving resolution number 2013-18 as just described, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That too passed unanimously. Next before the council is an item called Good of the Order. And I will ask if there are any topics that have not previously been addressed under committee or regional reports. Yes, Councilmember Winterstein.
Thank you. I was pleased that the special business and the thanks that we gave publicly to our colleague Joe Forkner earlier this evening, because I had planned to take this moment to personally thank Joe. Joe, I've enjoyed your participation on the council. I'm going to miss you on the council. I think your knowledge, your wisdom, and your contributions I've always valued tremendously. So I know you're going to be leaving this council, but I know you're not going to be in any way disappear from these chambers or from other activities regarding the city. So, thank you very much for your commitment to the city, to this council. Job well done, and I look forward, again, continuing working with you.
Councilmember Barber and Councilmember Butler.
I also, Joe, want to thank you and Am sorry to see you be leaving the council. Also sorry that you'll be leaving my partners with Eastside Fire and Rescue. I've so appreciated your knowledge that you bring on any committee that you sit on, and also that very calm, controlled means by which you share your information, and it's been a pleasure. We're going to miss you. Thank you for your service.
Councilmember Butler.
+3. Great job, Joe. The city's fortunate to have you in a variety of different roles and services. Your community commitment is an example that very, very, very few can match. Thank you.
Councilmember Scheer.
I want to echo the comments as well, and thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure serving with you. I know you were here on the council before I even joined, and so it's really been a pleasure to work with you over this past year directly together, both on council level matters as well as committee level matters. You still have a committee meeting tomorrow night, so this isn't quite the end. We'll see you for the infrastructure committee, but thank you for chairing that committee this year and stepping in to do that. Especially with it being a new committee, the merging of utilities and transportation and other things that we put in there. And so you've really guided that through, and you've really led the meetings in a very efficient and, as has been mentioned, a very calm manner that's been conducive to getting through these difficult agendas. So it's been a pleasure, and your commitment to public service is demonstrable. Thank you, Joe.
Councilmember Marks.
And I'll just add, Joe has the ability to make a Council Infrastructure Committee meeting exciting. He comes in enthusiastic and ready to go on topics not everyone would consider as exciting. Some of the committees, it's a little bit easier to get amped up as you go in, but Joe is always on top of the issues and always enthusiastic to get going, and I've really appreciated that, and I've appreciated working with him. So thank you, Joe.
Councilmember Goodman.
Well, I will miss my seat neighbor, for sure. Joe's, your depth of knowledge and your history of the city is in very many ways incomparable. And I think also one of the things that people in the public may not know, some people in the public do, is your willingness to sit down with any one of us at any time and talk about any topic and help school us has been just a tremendous addition. And I personally have taken advantage of that several times, so I thank you. And don't be a stranger. Please help us along, because we need your guidance sometimes and your wisdom. Thank you.
Councilmember Berkner.
It has been not only a distinct pleasure, but it's been an honor to work with this council. You have made the job easier. It has been a pleasure to take the roles that I have because of the way that the council works. I look forward to contributing with the city in the coming years, and I will continue my dedication to the city because I guess I'm not smart enough to do anything else. But again, thank you all for putting me here to begin with and for working with me throughout the year. And like I say, it's been a pleasure and honor being a member of the City Council this year. Thank you.
Thank you. We, next this evening, have an executive session as previously described, and I will once again state the purpose of that. It's the purpose of potential litigation, and that is RCW 42.30.110 bracketed 1 and then bracketed lowercase I. This topic is expected to take approximately 20 minutes. Action is not anticipated, so with that we will be recessing to executive session.